Hello and welcome to DTV, your source for news and information about the Knox County Democratic Party. I'm Michael Davis, and I'll be your host for today's show about the 2020 Knox County Commission election. And here with us for today's segment is Kimberly Peterson, running as a candidate for County Commission District 5.
Yes.
Kim, welcome to the program. Thanks for being here. Welcome to DTV.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I always love to come to DTV.
Right, you've done several of these before with some of your
have.
past involvement in Knox County, so welcome back, I should say. Tell our voters a little bit about yourself, your background and involvement in Knox County, and what's led you to run for County Commission.
Okay. Well, I've been in Knox County, back in Knox County for about 20 years. Not a native by any means, but I grew up a military brat moving around. My dad is a Knoxville native, so when he decided to go back to college, we resettled in the area. And after I went on adventures, all over the world, literally graduated from college, I settled back in Knoxville, followed my nonprofit career, working for American Cancer Society, Big Brothers Big Sisters as a development director. Had my family and became active probably in local issues mainly about 4 years ago. And so I have been an organizer with the Women's March, working with coalitions on various issues. And so I was actually approached and asked to run by the Democratic Party. And it took me a little while because, organized politics is not something that has ever really piqued my interest. But after thinking about it, I thought this is probably the most effective way for me to instigate change. And so as an activist and an advocate, that was something very appealing to me. So It was kind of a no-brainer after I thought about it.
All right. So District 5, tell us a little about it, our voters a little bit about it. Where's it located? What are its boundaries? What are some of the unique challenges that District 5 is facing nowadays?
District 5 encompasses West Knoxville, Concord, and Farragut, so pretty far west of the county. And actually where I live, I'm almost to the Loudoun County line. Okay. So, very, very deep west. And, it's a little bit more privileged area, I will admit, and, a little bit doesn't face all of the same challenges, but there are some universal issues that prop up in our district as well. So we are still struggling with development, infrastructure, affordable housing, believe it or not. It's kind of hard to think of people in Farragut trying to address affordable housing. But when people want to locate to that area because the close proximity to, say, Oak Ridge or some of the jobs that are out that way, people are still worried about being able to pay for good housing and things like that. So there are some of these centralized issues, and actually as I looked at the issues in my district, it was very similar to what I'm hearing in other districts. So okay.
Has there been any particular issue, I think, with flooding in District 5?
Yes.
How would County Commission be involved in alleviating any of that? What can be done there from that role?
Well, I think that it's definitely affected by the flooding, and again, I think it's adequate infrastructure. I'm actually not even in office yet, but I'm getting emails from constituents that are, how are you going to address this? What are you going to do about this? And it's getting worse. I mean, the flooding issue is getting worse all over Knox County. Last year we had at the Campbell Station Road exit, getting onto 40 was shut down completely because it was just not passable. And, people's basements are getting flooded, virtual lakes are springing up all over. And I feel it's because we haven't adequately addressed this issue. And it's something that's been going on. I sat in a county commission meeting, and the folks, I believe, in 2nd District were bringing this up about some complications they were having from the weather and flooding in that area. And I believe it was Commissioner Bustler that was saying, we've been addressing this for 20 years. 20 years is way too long, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, one of the things that I think we also have to really embrace is the effects of climate change. I mean, we have a lot of politicians who are denying that this is an issue. And we are seeing more severe weather patterns. We are seeing more flooding. You know, schools are closing because of this, because you can't even have access to the roads. And so we have to get serious about coming up with some sort of comprehensive plan to deal with this issue, and it's just not being addressed. I think, you know, we're just kind of business as usual, doing the same thing over and over, and it's only getting worse. So that is something that I think County Commission can address with, you know, coming up with a comprehensive, strategic growth and development plan. You know, something that really truly looks at infrastructure and roads and, you know, stormwater and drainage systems and things like that. I mean, we have to get really serious and call in the experts. You know, we have far too many politicians who think that they are experts, and we're ignoring the input from people who are in the know. And I really think that we need to bring people to the table and have serious discussions about this, because, as I said, it's only going to get worse.
Right. Do you feel that there is opposition currently in the county government to some of those ideas? And if you're on county commission, how do you push back against that resistance?
Well, yeah, I definitely think that there's pushback from that. I mean, the way that county commission is currently constructed, it's very heavily represented by business interests. You know, I think it's 7 out of the 11 commissioners have a business background. A lot of them, as we're seeing, who's funding a lot of these races, they're very heavily funded by developers. And, you know, we have the developers' voices very well represented on county commission right now. And what we don't have are the neighborhood associations or, you know, parents and who sit in carpool lines and watch the traffic, and, you know, folks that are dealing with these issues. We're not seeing their voices represented. So I think that, you know, the first step is truly getting more diversified voices on county commission. And then once we do that, you know, again, bringing people to the table that are in the know, you know, the experts to study some of these things. You know, we've had several proposals for different studies. We had a sidewalk study that was proposed that Mayor Jacobs, you know, poo-pooed, so to speak. And, you know, that's a bad idea. I mean, we're kind of going on, we're getting the cart before the horse, so to speak. So, you know, we're forging ahead with this development with no clear plan. And of course the developers are happy about that, because that's, you know, that's their bread and butter, and they're going to do well if they are able to develop. And I don't want to sound too adversarial about development, because we definitely need it, but we need to do smart development with the mind of long-term, holistic, long-range, you know, not just the here and now of let's throw up a subdivision, let's throw up an apartment complex and, you know, head out, and then 2 years down the road, we've got huge nightmares. You know, we need to be more forward-thinking, and again, I think getting diverse voices on county commission would address some of that.
Turning to law enforcement, Knox Police Department has a civilian oversight board.
Yes.
Knox County Sheriff's Office does not.
Yes.
You see any issues with that?
Absolutely.
What do you think Knox County should do to address that?
Absolutely. We need some sort of oversight. I mean, because basically what happens is, you know, Knoxville City does not have a jail. And so most of the folks are getting, you know, they are incarcerated in the county system, and there's no one, you know, really regulating that. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily doing anything bad, but I think that it's not only oversight, but also improving relationships between the community and law enforcement. I think that, you know, some sort of something similar to park, version of the county park program would help to also improve relationships. So it's not just, you know, we're watching you, it's also to, you know, build trust and community towards law enforcement, which also makes law enforcement officers safe. So, yeah, I definitely think that we need something like that. And we're seeing that all over the state. You know, we're seeing oversight boards and community partnerships with law enforcement popping up in Nashville and, you know, other areas. So, yes, we definitely need to examine that, and I would push for that for both, you know, both parties' sake, for the community and for law enforcement.
Right. Okay. Mentioning Mayor Jacobs a few minutes ago, he recently initiated and the County Commission approved a reduction in county funding for health care for indigent persons. Do you think that was a good move?
Absolutely not. I mean, we saw some of our most underserved and most vulnerable in our community that really suffered because of that cut. And, that was a huge mistake that I think we're going to see pretty swiftly some ramifications for. And so, I think that we need to work to get that funding back into the budget. And, also at the county commission level, we can advocate for things at the state level. So, we can use our voices on the local level to push for things at the state level, like an expansion of Medicaid and things like that. That would also, that affects directly our local community as well. So I would, also advocate for us to use our voices, again, to serve some of the most vulnerable in our community that are just not getting the attention that they need.
How would you respond to some of the reasoning that particular decision was based on an issue of fairness between the city and the county, and that the county did this to lessen an unfair burden on it so they could share more with the city? Do you find that there's any credibility to that, or is this really the county health department a county responsibility?
Well, I think it's a community responsibility, and I think that, pointing fingers is not helpful. I mean, passing the buck back and forth, bottom line, people are falling through the cracks.
Right.
So, not necessarily getting into too much of the details of the argument or justification, but just to say bottom line, it was not a smart move,
Right.
whatever the justification was. And again, people are going to suffer.
Okay.
To say that there are folks that are, our community is very fluid. We do have the city and the county boundaries, obviously, but it's not like we have these brick walls up that people are not moving back and forth within those different areas. And so, I look at this as a community issue that doesn't necessarily stop at the city.
Okay.
So, and only affect people in the city.
Right.
So
the campaign is in full swing right now. Tell our voters some of the important dates that are coming up and how they can reach out to you, get involved with your campaign.
So the big thing that we really want to emphasize is that August 6th is a general election. Many people, when I am out canvassing, are really shocked by that because they have November in their mind.
Right.
And, November is for the state level and the federal, but local elections are August 6th with early voting starting before that, and locations are being, lined up, but I'm sure it'll be the usual places. So, just encouraging folks to get out and vote.
And how can they contact you?
My phone number is 865-316-4854. And I have fielded calls and texts already from folks. And then my email is Peterson 5th Dist, which is DIST for district @gmail.com. And again, I welcome, any feedback, and I would love to have you be part of the Peterson for Progress team. That's what we call our volunteers.
All right. Great. Just briefly, what's your vision of Knox County at its best over the next 4 to 8 years?
I think a Knox County with more diverse voices, where we're amplifying the voices of the people in local government on county commission, is the best vision we can have. A truly diversified of backgrounds and experiences, that's the best we can have for our community, a more representative local government.
Okay. Kimberly, thank you so much for being here with us today on DTV. We really appreciate it. We hope to see you again soon.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching. I'm Michael Davis, and we appreciate you watching DTV. Hello and welcome to DTV, your source for news and information about the Knox County Democratic Party. I'm your host, Michael Davis, for today's segment with County Commission candidate for District 1, Dasha Lundy. Dasha, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me on this beautiful day.
You're very welcome.
In lockdown land.
Right. So as our viewers may notice, we're doing this via Zoom. And today, because we're all in self-quarantine, as we're trying to avoid social contact right now in this very important time to keep social distancing for public health and keep everybody as safe as we can during the period of the COVID-19 pandemic. But we're not going to let that stop the show. We figured out a way to have this interview go on, and we're very happy to talk with you today, Dasha. So thanks for accommodating us.
Thank you.
All right. So you're seeking the County Commission District 1 seat. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to seek this office.
Well, a little bit about me. I am born and raised in Knoxville, graduated from Carter High School, went away for school, came back. Always been very involved in my community ever since I was in high school. I used to tutor kids. I was in this program called Black Achievers. Just really always had a volunteer spirit. But when I moved back to Knoxville in 2005 after receiving my master's degree from Tennessee State, just like I said, always been involved and just started looking at equity issues and just was kind of concerned about, things that living in East Knoxville, especially, there's nothing going on. I have watched the decline in my community for the past several years. And in 2017, that's when I became president of our neighborhood association, Burlington Neighborhood. And I got, I guess, first experience of learning, start asking the question, like, why is every other part of Knoxville doing better and we're still declining and we still have blight and our schools are still struggling? So many people encouraged me to run. And, of course, I was like, no, don't want to do that. Want to just live my life. And then people just kept urging me. And I like, why not put my name in a hat? It's just funny that, I do work in Cobb County, and even my patients, my coworkers, they like, you need to be running for office. And I kept rejecting it. So here I am. I did it. So
we're glad that you stepped up. So how is being part of the neighborhood association, the things that you've learned, kind of illuminated some of the problems, some of the challenges in First District?
The challenges is there's no resources. I don't think people take the community seriously. And I know there's some, I know it's just like a huge education gap related to how does development really work. And, I talked about on the campaign trail, if you think about Knox County, you think about especially Blacks, we don't have a lot of wealthy Black people who can invest in our communities, so, then you become, we have wealthy whites or other people. And so when people start to come in, then guess what happens? People talk about gentrification. Guess what happens? It's that war again. Mm. It's the division of community. It causes so much havoc. So that's the pain. That was the pain that I had when I was president of Burlington, because Burlington is a blighted commercial district. It's been blighted since I was a child, and it's in the Black community. Mm-hmm. And why is it like that? And where is the money coming from?
Right.
So that's what I learned being president of Burlington.
Okay. Is there anything specifically that you think County Commission could do to help that wealth gap out in your district, specifically with those businesses? Is it specifically a property issue? Are there more incentives that County Commission could provide? What could it?
It can be incentives, but it's always talks around the table about development in East Knox. We got the crosswalks. It came from commission funding. It came from the state that came through commission. Commission had a vote on that. So it's just more having a conversation. So that's what you can do. We can do as commission.
Do you think the county commission or the county government has listened to enough community input, and how could they do better about that in future development issues?
Well, to be truthful, yes, because everybody's looking at East Knoxville now, or looking at District 1, just not East Knoxville, but looking at District 1 like, oh, this is prime opportunity. Hmm. So yeah, the talks are there. My fear is the representation there. Is someone there that's willing to speak up and like, look, there's a whole community here that's been here that some of us are fearful of getting displaced. Hmm. And I'm not afraid to have that conversation with anybody.
Okay.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, I have talked to current commissioners. I've talked to previous commissioners, and people already know that this is prime prime real estate over here. And this is where mostly Black community is. And I always talked about urban renewal. We went through this before when we lost our property in the downtown area. And unfortunately, businesses have not bounced back.
Right. What sort of things do you think that if there was any, or if the owners there now, the business owners there now, the residents there now, are going to increase their wealth, to have the character of the community, to have the current residents of the community continue there? What do you think would be the biggest impetus for that, the biggest trigger for that to begin, to see less disparity in East Knoxville, in District 1, with the rest of the county?
Yeah, having real discussions. I think we tend to avoid those discussions. It's more about collaboration with the city and the county and our state, and sitting at the table, and including the chamber. The chamber of commerce. I think it was the Chamber of Commerce and maybe Connect Knoxville had a meeting in our area about economic opportunities in this area. So yeah, that's what we can do. You know, people talk about, you know, a lot of our constituents talking about having a business incubator over here, because I always talk about, not too many people are going to go to the Chamber of Commerce. They don't see anybody that looks like them.
Right.
But how can we bring the resources to the community and people feel like they can trust the people giving out the resources, so we can elevate the community, if that makes sense?
Right. You brought up schools a minute ago. You see a lot of disparity in our inner city schools, and as opposed to some of our other school districts in Knox County. What do you feel County Commission's role is on improving that?
Well, I mean, it's all about funding, and I guess we can see, you know, unfortunately, we are living through this coronavirus, but the disparities are about to be up in everybody's face right now, because now we're looking at distant learning issues. And guess what? Our schools in our district, everybody doesn't have a computer. Everybody doesn't have an internet. So how are we going to teach our kids since schools probably will be out for the rest of the school year? So, you know, the thing about the corona and me running for office, I'm seeing people are able to see the disparities increase, because most people don't even understand how, you know, they don't understand, like, why don't kids have computers, or why don't they have the internet? You know, they don't see that's a issue in the county, because if you have that, then you're fine. As long as you have it, then you're fine.
Right.
But now we're struggling, because now it's against the law. If everybody does not have the opportunity to be educated this time, then no one will get educated.
Right. Do you see that that's tied in with the general economic position of not just the children, but their parents, in that they have jobs that may not afford them to the luxury of working from home, or have the ability to do so themselves because of what you stated, that lack of internet connectivity
Yeah. And, you know, and poverty is a real issue. I talked about on my campaign trail that our median income for District 1 is $23,000 for the district. And I always am specific amongst the Black is $21,000.
Right.
That's what we're dealing with over here.
Okay. Particularly back with the public education issues. Recently, Knox County Schools had a meeting to discuss overrepresentation of discipline in all of its schools, Black students or students of color versus white students. Black students by far made up the largest percentage of students that have been expelled, students that have received in-school suspension, any kind of disciplinary action whatsoever. I think that that's another issue with the public schools that the county commission can also address somehow.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and that's, you know, with all that, it's not just county commission, it's everybody at the table. You know what I'm saying? Our kids need to see someone that looks like them. People need to understand the culture of teaching a Black student. And you know, that's our question. Is that why they're getting suspended more readily than the other ones? Because we don't have Black teachers anymore. So Knoxville College, for example, used to when they was open, they graduated several Black teachers, and most of those Black teachers are retiring. They're not getting replaced. So yeah, it's a county, but it's our issue. It's not just it's our issue that we have to come at the table and talk about. You know, I was talking to somebody that was interviewing for a position that can help bring more Black teachers. But I'm like, okay, we can bring Black teachers here, but guess what? There's nothing to do in Knox for Blacks. You know, how are you going to keep them here?
Right.
When you go to a downtown, you don't see anybody that really looks like you.
Right. Do you see a
so that's what I bear. I mean, that's the pain I have a burden with every day. I like people. It's like I'm trying to scream from the mountaintops that we have to start talking about these real issues and stop lipstick and stuff.
Right. Do you see that same issue showing up in law enforcement with the sheriff?
Of course, yeah. Who wants to work? You know, and I mean, from the law enforcement part, I mean, I hear that, you know, people don't feel like they get paid as good, so they go somewhere else.
Any and is that also like the representation of people that seeing someone that looks like them on that force?
Yeah,
yeah,
you have to, because, you know, unfortunately, we still live in a world that does not like other people because of the color of their skin.
Right, right.
I wish it was different, but, you know, I'm hoping like with this pandemic that I think we can start to realize, oh, we're about to be on the same level field now. If this keeps going on, people losing their jobs, Corona doesn't have a white, Black. It's not targeting certain people. It's targeting all of us. It becomes our issue and our common enemy that we're going to have to come together and fight for.
Right. Okay. Well, want to make sure that you tell our voters, our listeners, about where they can find your campaign online, or how they can get in touch with you to be a volunteer, or learn more about your campaign.
Well, my Facebook is Dasha Lundy for County Commission District 1. I do have a website. It's DashaLundy.com. My name is Dasha, DashaLundy. Feel free to contact me through those platforms. I'm easy to find. So my number is published. You know, write a letter, send me a message. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to learn more and meet more people. I'm kind of just this. I just know, like, with this that we're going on, I know our district is going to be further behind now. We're already in poverty, and then people are losing jobs. I'm talking to small business owners now, and it's scary right now.
Right. Yeah, that seems evident that the places that are going to be hit the hardest in whatever comes next, both in terms of life and in terms of finances and economics, it's going to be the people that were already getting hit hard.
Right.
Well, we've got about a minute left in what time we have, or 30 seconds. Tell our viewers why you're going to make the best person for this office.
Because I'm a listener, I'm passionate, I'm a leader. I'm not afraid to speak up. I'm not afraid to speak against any injustice. I am for the people. I'm for Black people. I'm from all people. But I know it's our time. I know it's District 1's time to rise up. I keep hearing so much stuff. And people have so many concerns, but so many people are fearful of standing up. But it's our time. We have to stand up for the injustice. We have been in blight for years, and we continue to decline. And it's our time to rise up. Downtown has done very well. But like I said, with the Corona, I don't know what's going to happen. We already have businesses leaving downtown.
Okay.
So
Dasha,
that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Dasha, thank you so much for talking with us today. Great luck on the campaign, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for watching DTV.